In my last video upload on the Tacoma, I replaced the grille on my 2016 TRD off-road, removing the chrome grille and replacing it with this new Pro style grille from Cali Raised. I indicated in that video that there were more modifications coming to the Tacoma in the near future, and in today's video, that future has arrived. The modification that I'm going to be making to the Tacoma also starts up here at the front of the truck, where we're going to be adding a new winch. Now, if you've been on the channel for a while, or you're a subscriber, you'll know that one of the things I'm really intent on doing with my truck is maintaining the overall stock look. I'm not really that into aftermarket parts and really building up the truck to change it too much from that stock look. Obviously, I've done a few things that modify it at some level, but I didn't want to put a bulky bumper on the front or really make any significant changes. And so the winch that I'm installing is a hidden winch. It's going to go behind the front bumper and really won't have much of an impact on the truck. Now, we had a really heavy winter here in Central Oregon, got a lot of snow, and I managed to get the truck stuck several times. That was before I got my new Goodyear Wrangler Ultra Terrain tires, and so I'm gonna have a lot more functionality and traction for next winter. But it kind of got me thinking a little bit just about recovery, and it's all good if you're out there with somebody else, but when you're out by yourself, you don't want to get stuck, and a winch is a really good way to give yourself a little bit more peace of mind to get yourself unstuck if that were to occur. And so I'm really excited to add some additional functionality to the truck, give me the ability to get outside and not always have to have somebody with me to pull me out in case something goes wrong. Now, I have chosen the winch and mount, obviously. We've got a Rough Country Pro Series 9500S winch. It's got a synthetic rope. That's what the 9500S stands for. And then the 9500 indicates the tow rating, so it can tow up to 9,500 pounds. It's got a 5.5 horsepower motor. And the primary reason that I chose this winch is because it's really affordable. Only $400 compared with $500 to $1,000, even more than that. You can easily spend $2,000 on a winch. And I figure it's something I'm not going to use that much. It's for that rare occasion where I might get stuck. And Rough Country has a good reputation. And so for $400, it's really cheap peace of mind. And then you can see right behind that, I've got the mount for the Tacoma. This comes from Hidden Winch Mount Specialists. This is $490, designed specifically for the 3rd generation Tacoma. And it offers a bolt-on assembly. So not a whole lot in terms of modifications. Basically, I'll remove the aluminum bumper on my Tacoma, install this, and then the winch will mount right on top, all hidden and concealed behind that front bumper. So I'm pretty excited to get this installed. As you can see, the mount comes in raw steel, so we're gonna have to powder coat it to prevent any rust down the road. So that's gonna be the first step before we can start that installation, is that I need to take that into a powder coater, get it coated so that it's ready to install, and then we'll get to the installation. All right, so the winch mount is now powder coated. It cost me about $60. Looks really nice and clean with that black finish on it. And now we're ready to begin the install. Now, I've got to admit that I have never installed a winch before, and it makes me a little bit nervous. I've done some research trying to find other installations for the 3rd generation Tacoma, and I can't really find any other good video installations, and so I'm expecting this is going to take some effort, but hopefully it'll be a good resource for those of you out there that are looking for the same thing and can't find it. Now, looking through the instruction manuals, what I found is it typically takes about 4 hours to do an install. I'm not most mechanically inclined, and so I'm guessing it's probably going to take at least 3 times that much time. So I'm expecting it to span over a couple days. So I'm going to get started today, take it all apart, hopefully get the mount installed, and then we'll just kind of go from there. And hopefully the instructions that I've got will give me enough guidance to get to where I need to go. If not, maybe I'll get some help from the outside. But we'll just kind of see how it goes for the time being. And I'll let you guys know at the end of the video how complicated it was and thoughts on whether you should perform this yourself if you're a novice like myself. Now, the first step for install is that we need to remove the front grille from the vehicle, and it's actually quite easy to do. What we've got to do is that there are 2 Phillips head screws, one here and one here that you can see I've already removed. Those need to come out just with a Phillips head screwdriver. And then we've got some black plastic clips. We've got one here There's another one over on this side I already took out, right there. And then down here inside, I don't know if we'll be able to see it or not, but there are 4 more locations where those need to be removed. So along this bottom piece down here, we've got one of the holes right here, we've got one down at that end, and then we've got 2 down on this side. So those 4 clips need to come out. To remove those, they've got a tool that they make that's specific for removal, or you can just use a small flathead screwdriver, tuck it in underneath. This is one that's not being removed, but this is what they look like before you pop them out. Tuck that little flat head screwdriver in underneath and just kind of pop it up like we've got on this one, and then these pull right out. So they come out quite easily once you've done that. Once you remove those 4 on the bottom, 2 on the top, plus these 2 Phillips head screws, then we're just going to gently pull the whole grill away from the vehicle. There's some little clips along the bottom that hold it into place, so you just want to be gentle as you're removing that, not to break into those clips, but it's pretty easy to do. So the next step in the process is to remove the front bumper from the vehicle, and this step is a little bit tricky. In order to do it, the first step is that you've got to remove the inner wheel well liner. And to do that, we've got one little clip back here that you can pull loose using that flathead screwdriver again. We've got 2 more little clips that are quite a pain. There's one here and one here. This is what these guys look like. Kind of square on the bottom here. They've got on these 2 corners you can kind of squeeze in to pull them free. So that's a little bit of a pain to get out. 10 millimeter here. We've got a little clip here. Basically, we're gonna, all the screws that are attaching this guy on here, you want to loosen that so you can pull this free, and then that way you can get this fender flare loose. And to get the fender flare loose, there's basically 3 clips along here that you've got to pop out, but to access them, you've got to have that inner liner out to get them from the inside. Then you pop this free. Along the bottom of the front bumper, there are a number of 10 millimeter screws that also need to be removed. And then this guy kind of pops into place, and so you have to be really gentle pulling that loose. I wanted to do the driver's side ahead of time so that I could kind of figure it all out, and so you can see how that attaches up here on front. Like I said, this step is a real pain. They definitely could have made it easier. One thing that's a challenge is that a lot of these clips are very different styles, so they didn't use one single type of clip. You can see on that fender flare, these are the little clips that you've got to access from the inside. So there's one here, and then this little blue clip up here. So you pull those all free, then you can see we've got this loose. And then the other step is that we've got an electrical connection right here that needs to be undone. So now that we have the plastic bumper cover off, the next step is to remove this aluminum bumper here. And we've got 3 bolts on each side that need to be removed. They're 14 millimeters, so you've got 2 here, and then 1 on the inside. Likewise, we've got 1 over here and 2 on this side. You can see I've already removed those, sitting right here. And then the next step is that we've got 2 17 millimeter bolts. So we've got 1 right here and then 1 on the opposite side. Those need to be removed as well. You'll see that those bolt holes all match up. So we've got the 3 on either side on here, and then the 2 down on the bottom on either side. So we'll be attaching in those 4 locations. You'll want to save these bolts, so we'll leave those on, and then we'll pull this bumper off, and then this guy will go on in its place. So we've got the bumper off now. You will need a pry bar to get it off. It's on there pretty snug, but you can pretty easily get that off with a pry bar. You can see now we've got the old aluminum bumper sitting next to the new hidden winch mount. Significant difference in weight. This is super light given that it's aluminum. We'll be throwing this out and replacing it with this guy, a whole lot heavier. In some sense you could say that it's a little bit more stout and durable if you were to get in a wreck or something. Obviously it's going to be more capable of holding that winch mount. And then again, seeing them side by side, you can see those connection points. We've got those 3 holes here, line up with these 3. And then again, that one right there is going to attach on the bottom of this guy here. So now that we've got that all taken care of, the next step is we're actually going to install the winch on the mount before we install it on the truck. It's going to be a lot more challenging to try to make these connections on the bottom here if you have it installed on the truck first. So Will make it a little bit more difficult to try to lift it up, but it will make the install easier overall. So installing the winch on the mount is pretty simple. There's 4 cutout holes right in the winch mount that align with the bottom of the winch, and then we've got 4 bolts with washers and locking nuts that we'll use to secure the winch onto the mount. So we'll go ahead and get that installed, and once it's installed, then we'll install the entire unit on the truck. So we've got the winch installed on the mount, and the install went pretty smoothly. You can see that we've got a floor jack underneath, and that made it a lot easier to get the mount level. I've got a cloth down there to protect the powder coating, and then with it lifted up just a little bit there, sits level so that I could just set the winch right on top of the mount and screw it into place. So it made that pretty easy. Unfortunately, the mount and the winch are really heavy now, and so it's a little bit tricky to get it installed on the truck. I did do a test run before I put the winch on just to make sure that it fit and kind of see how it positions. The tow hook here is kind of in the way, but you can get around it without taking it off. So I'm going to leave it on there, just one less thing to mess with. But it is going to make it a little bit trickier to get it on because you have to kind of angle it into position, putting that side on first. The other thing is that the mount comes with the 7/16 washers. These are going to go on the I guess outside of the mount when we bolt it back on. So there's a washer for each of the bolts. We've got the 3 here on both sides plus that bolt on the bottom here. So they give you a total of 8. So now we're going to go ahead and lift that into place. Recommended that you do this with 2 people. Since I've only got myself here right now, I'm going to see if it's manageable to try to get it into place by myself. May use the floor jack to try to lift it up too so I'm not hurting my back. Depending on how it goes, may try to get some help. So you probably all saw it coming. I did not. I think this is the solenoid up on top. Doesn't give you the clearance that you need for this little cross member. And so there's a little 11 meter screw. You can see one of them right there that I already pulled off on this corner right here. On the bottom, there's 4 of those mounting that on there, so I'm going to pull those off, and then that is what the solenoid mount that comes with the hidden winch mount for the Tacoma is for. So this little guy right here will attach that solenoid in another area that's out of conflict. So we're going to go ahead and get those 4 bolts off, and then we can get it mounted, and then we'll do the solenoid separately. So it's getting late. I'm going to finish up for tonight and we'll get started again in the morning. We made pretty good progress today so far. You can see we've got the mount installed now with the winch on there. We still need to get the solenoid mounted. We've got to do all the electrical connections, and then of course we've got to put the whole truck back together. And so there still is a lot to be done, but we've made pretty good progress so far. I've got to say that with this installation, I've gotten nervous several times today and started to kind of question whether I should be doing this project. Certainly would have been easier to pay somebody to do it, but 2 things kept me going. One is that there's a lot of satisfaction in doing things yourself, and the second one is that I wanted to have that install video for other people out there that are looking to do the same thing. And so, you know, starting to feel a little bit better now that we've got the mount and the winch on there. Still a lot to be done, but I'm optimistic that things are going to turn out all right. So with that said, I'll catch you guys again in the morning. So it's a new day and the fun continues with the winch installation on my 3rd generation Tacoma. Hopefully today we can get things all wrapped up. So the observant viewer will notice that it's dark outside right now. That's because I got everything all wrapped up. So you're getting a little sneak peek here of the final product. I got everything all installed, and then as I was cleaning up, found the ground wire for the winch. I had missed the installation on that originally. Now I've got it in, so wanted to show you the final clip so you don't make the same mistake. Unfortunately, it was a pretty difficult thing to try to get down to that ground wire. I've got the photo here showing you the location of where that attaches. So it's down on the bottom left side, and here it took quite an effort to try to get that attached after the fact. But you have to attach that ground wire, and then we've got the ground wire and then the positive cable here coming through, and I got those cleaned up with some zip ties so they're nice and snug, won't move around any. Come in through the driver's side right behind the headlight, and then they come up by the battery, I've got the extra wire all coiled up here so that it's nice and snug again, won't get in the way. And then on the positive side, we attach the wire to that positive terminal. And then on the negative side, got it attached right up here. So now we've got both of those cables installed, and we can do a quick test. Now this specific winch is not wireless, it's got just a cable, and so the cable attaches right here on the side. I installed the solenoid so I'd have pretty easy access to it to be able to attach that cable, and so it should be fairly convenient in this location. It's got 3 prongs, attaches in on the side there, and we've got this little controller. So this guy here, it's got an out button and an in button. You can also just release the clutch. There's a handle down on this side, turn that 180 degrees, and then you can just pull the whole cable out. So we've got it out a ways right now. If we want to pull it back in, you just press this in button, and you can see that it works just fine. So don't make the same mistake I did with that negative wire or ground wire. Get that installed ahead of time, makes the installation a whole lot easier. So since this is a hidden winch and it's going to go behind the front bumper, we do need to cut a hole in this plastic cover on the front of the bumper. So we're going to actually take this cover off of the main bumper unit, install the bumper itself, then we'll locate where we need to make cuts and then insert it back on. Now you can see that to take this off, we've got a number of clips around the perimeter. So we're just going to push gently on those clips to release some of that pressure and work our way around the perimeter until we can just pop this entire section off. So the next step is to loosely put the bumper back into place. We haven't connected it on just yet, but we're going to line up this front cover piece with the winch fair lead so that we can make a cutout. So we got this piece off here. You can see that when it's in position, it blocks that opening, and so we need to cut out so that the fair lead can attach on like so. So we need to basically line it up, figure out where to make a cut on this guy, and then we'll be able to insert it right around that fair lead. So this is the step that makes me a little bit nervous because I've got to cut it out. You've got to be very careful with it. Some of the various kits do come with a basically stencil that you could use to do the cutout, but this is basically a stencil on its own. So we're just going to use a lot of caution with it, and hopefully we get a clean cut. So this step is definitely a little tricky, and I'm not super pleased with how clean the cut came out, but it's pretty good overall. You can see there's quite a few blemishes on the bumper to begin with. I probably added a couple new ones along the edge right there and over on this side. Fortunately, it's not like the bumper was in great condition to begin with, so I don't think it's going to be too noticeable. Plus, I have a plan to maybe cover that up in the future, so I'll get to that in a future video. However, I think we've got a pretty good cutout here now to work with. You can see that the plastic shell fits around the fair lead now. And then the final step that we've got here is we've got some door edge guard that we're using. This little black strip here. We're going to wrap that around the edge of this plastic, and that'll give us that cleaner edge. So, you know, it looks pretty unfinished currently, but I think with this black edging on there, it'll give it a nice finished look. So you can see we have that trim piece around the perimeter now, and it gives it a nice clean finished look. Now that we've got it on there, we took the bumper back off of the truck. I just had it on loosely before, and we're going to pop it back into place, get those clips in from the back side, and then we'll put the whole bumper back on the truck. So I've hit a really exciting stage in the process. I've got the whole bumper all put back together. Still need to put some of the bolts on that latch it on, but you can see that we've got the fair lead installed now with that seal around it. We've got the bumper in place, and it looks really good. Very pleased with the turnout. It was definitely frustrating to try to get to this stage. Every time that I'd pop it on, the seal would come off or the bumper would pry free, and took a little bit of effort to try to get it all in there, but now we've got it on. We still need to, you know, clip the bumper in, bolt it into place, put the fender back together, do all the other put back together work, but from this point on it should be pretty simple and straightforward. We've gotten through the hardest of it. Now we've just got to follow the steps that we use to get to where we are in reverse, and we'll have it back together. So we've reached a really exciting stage in the process. I've got the fairlead in with the bumper attached. I haven't completely secured the bumper just yet. I wanted to kind of get everything in place up here first before I did that. It did take quite a bit of effort, but now that I've got it installed, it's got a pretty nice clean finish to it. One of the real challenges that I found is that with a really tight seal here and this little rubber piece along the edge, pushing it into place, occasionally it would pop off, so I had to take the bumper on and off a few times until I could get it just right. But now that it's in place, it's got a pretty clean finish and looks great. The hardest part of the install should be over at this point. Now we're just going to follow those first steps that we used to take the grille and the bumper off and put it all back into place. Fortunately, I think that these steps are actually easier in the opposite direction. It's harder to take it apart than it is to put it back together. They make it pretty simple to snap back into piece, because the goal obviously is when they're building these trucks, they want it to be quick and efficient. Well, that was an exhausting day, but the job is complete. We've got everything wrapped up, grill is back in place, bumper is on, and we will do a proper reveal in the morning. One other thing I didn't mention earlier that you do need to take care of is on the winch mount, there's two metal members that point out this direction. Those are designed to attach to this plastic bumper. So you can see I've got a bolt in right here. You got to drill through each of those. It'd be nice if that came pre-drilled so that when it got powder coated, that was protected. But it's a pretty insignificant member in the larger scheme of things. So even if we get rust or something, it shouldn't be a big deal. You can see on the old bumper, these are the two members that those are replacing for where that bumper attaches in. We've got another two members, this one and the one on the other side, that are no longer in existence, and cover still seems pretty snug. The other thing I wanted to mention is to get the bumper back on, her plastic covers underneath, I did have to trim this little piece right around the winch mount. So just did that with a knife, just kind of cut a clean edge on both sides and tucked it in around there. Everything's pretty snug, so you know, like I said, without those two additional members being screwed in, I'm not too concerned. It still feels pretty snug. I may try to get some other sort of clip or something that can go through this hole and the one on the other side, just to kind of hold these different plastic pieces together. But again, you know, it's a little loose, but nothing's going anywhere. So I think it's gonna be pretty good overall. Like I said, in the morning, I'll give you a better look. Good morning and welcome to another day. The winch is installed on the truck and I've got better daylight now to give you a good look at the final outcome. It took me about 12 hours in total to get the winch installed on the truck. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a novice, and so it was a little bit more of a challenge. And then of course, anytime that you try to film something and give instructions, it complicates the overall process. And so 12 hours for me to do it. I'd say for another novice, it's probably gonna be somewhere in that 8 to 12 hour range. And then I could definitely see if you're experienced and you know what you're doing, it might be feasible to get this done in 4 hours. Of course, the other thing that you sometimes run into is not having the parts that you need or breaking something. There were a couple trips where I had to go get some screws. That slows down the process a lot to be running around town getting extra parts. But in general, the installation wasn't all that bad. The hidden winch mount specialist mount was very easy to use. It was completely bolt on, so I didn't have to do any real cutting of the truck, which is a good thing. I definitely didn't want to make any serious modifications. The only real work that I had to do on that one is drilling 3 holes. So we had that one hole that we had to drill for the solenoid, and then 2 holes in those little bottom brackets that attach to the plastic bumper. So pretty simple in that sense. And then we had to cut that plastic cover on the bottom to put the plastic cover back on. And so that was pretty simple install in that sense. Likewise, the rough country winch went pretty smooth as well. Having that solenoid bolt on the top made it very easy to remove it and reinstall it on the hidden winch mount specialist mount. And so definitely glad that it wasn't one fixed unit so that it was difficult to try to remove that. Giving you a look at the final outcome, I mentioned earlier in the video that one of the things I really wanted to do with this installation is maintain that stock look on the truck, and this is as close as you can get to stock while adding a winch to the truck. So I'm really pleased with the overall look that we've got here. One thing that I do need to figure out is what I want to do with this little hook here. So there's nothing for me to attach onto since I don't have a new bumper or any shackles or anything. So for the time being, this is going to kind of slide around. I can tuck it back in there to prevent that a little bit. The winch came with this hook here, which I don't really care for the way that it looks. Plus, it's going to slide back and forth if I have it on there. I was also thinking of using this one. This is a shackle from Rhino USA, the same one that I've got on the back of the truck. It's got a really nice look to it, but again, it slides back and forth. And so need to figure out what I want to do up here. I may just tuck this back in there and then you know, get it out when I need it. It's pretty easy to just kind of slide it in there, but we'll see. And then of course the other thing that I need to figure out is what to do with my license plate. We've got 2 holes from where that was mounted, so I'd like to do something to kind of patch up the bumper, give it a cleaner look, and then I need to figure out what to do with the license plate. So more to come on that as I kind of look into some of the options and figure things out. So that's the hidden winch installation on the 3rd generation Tacoma. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the section below. If you'd like to see me go get this truck stuck and put the winch in action, give me a thumbs up. For more videos of the 3rd generation Tacoma, subscribe to my channel. In the meantime, thanks for watching.